This is Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Hope you are all staying warm. Welcome to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily on an absolutely Arctic day here in the Peg. But if we were going to have a day where it was like minus 30 during the day, why not have it on the day the Florida Panthers are in town? Welcome to Winnipeg, champs. We got a 7 o'clock puck drop tonight, the lone visit of the two-time defending Stanley Cup champions, along with our old pal, head coach Paul Maurice. We'll hear from Pomo. He was in fine form this morning down at Canada Life Centre. We'll also hear from Scott Arneal and Adam Lowry as the Jets look to build off of their victory against the St. Louis Blues on Tuesday night, with their any faint playoff hopes really hanging in the balance, needing to go on a significant heater. The big story, though, is Winnipeg right now is the weather. These next few days could be the worst of the entire winter. So I hope you are all bundled up somewhere warm and comfortable, getting ready for the show. And, of course, might be a good night just to jump in a warm Uber to get to the game tonight as opposed to driving downtown. Brandon Rewucki is going to join us a little later on. And it's been a minute since we've talked to our old buddy Rod Peterson. And Rod, of course, now he's Florida man, is doing the Cats and Bolts podcast. So talk a little football, a little hockey with Rod. Brandon Rewicki is going to join us a little later on. We've got It Takes a Community to Play segment with the Kyle Turcotte from the Canadian Sports Centre ahead of the Olympic Games. And our pal Jake Bowen Moss from Coolbet's going to join us as well ahead of tomorrow's 10 a.m. edition of WST Winners here on the Winnipeg Sports Talk channel. Myself, Pat Gregoire, and Jake Bowen Moss will do our picks against the spread. We'll do some totals, some player props tomorrow for the AFC and NFC championship games. Shout out to everybody in chat that's with us right now, and to all of you podcast listeners making us a part of your daily routine. Appreciate you all, and certainly appreciate the great support we've got from the amazing sponsors that make WST happen each and every day. Of course, our partners at Coolbet, Princess Auto, Chud's Power Sports, Manitoba Battery. We will get to the lines for our friends at Clean Line Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling. Of course, the gang over at Royal Sports, Little Brown Jug, Boston Pizza, Manitoba Battery. I bet Donnie and the gang at Manitoba Battery are busy today. Uptown Alley, the St. B Mega Millions Lottery, Canadian Club, St. Vital Dental Center, and, of course, the gang over at Rowley's Transfer. Let's get things going and welcome in Michael Remis to the program. Remo, have you been outside yet today?
Yeah, I had to drive my kids to school, so I have been outside. It's rough out there. My video doorbell stopped working. The battery died. I had to replace it. Went outside for that. It's okay if you're going out for a short time, not a long time. And you mentioned Manitoba Battery. It was this time last year. My car battery was dying repeatedly. And I finally got off my ass and called Donnie and went to Manitoba Battery, and he put in a new one for me, and it's working fantastic. So thank you, Donnie and the gang, Manitoba Battery.
Yeah, I mean, listen, they are, and we always say it, hey, are you going to be ready for it? And I mean, a lot of people, I'm a noted procrastinator myself, get around to it when you get around to it, and all of a sudden you have to get around to it because it's that time. So listen, these next few days are going to be ugly, but I will say this. Yeah, it's super cold. We're used to it. We've been here before. This weather system that, is obviously putting us into this crazy Arctic period is going to absolutely wreak havoc south of us. I mean, this winter storm that they're expecting in the United States is going to basically go from the Midwest all the way down to northern Texas and all the way across to the East Coast over a couple days. And they're worried about a massive ice storm south of the line of places that are going to get like a foot of snow that could absolutely cripple like extended areas of the United States. So we'll be thinking about many of our friends south of the border dealing with, you could have power outages for like weeks. So it is a pretty dangerous situation that this storm is, bringing south. But needless to say, it goes without saying, if you are at all needing to be outside, make sure you are bundled up, take precautions, and be careful out there, because this is the sort of weather that can be life-threatening, to be perfectly honest with you. Anyways, let's get to the action tonight, Remo. The champs in town, Florida Panthers. And, as much as we've talked about the Jets being, probably the team that has underachieved the most as opposed to their expectations so far this year, it is a little weird to see the Atlantic Division standings and see the Florida Panthers tied with the Ottawa Senators at the bottom of the division. Listen, the record is still quite good. Jets would kill to be 5 games above 500 with 53 points in 48 games. But the situation that they're in is kind of close to what Winnipeg is in right now. They're 6 points out of a playoff spot, and they've got 4 teams to pass: New Jersey, the Washington Capitals, the Philadelphia Flyers, and the Toronto Maple Leafs, whereas the Jets come into action tonight now 9 back. 7 back of the Seattle Kraken, but with the Sharks, Kings, Predators, Blackhawks, and Flames. So, for people that are clinging on to playoff hopes for both teams, which is crazy to say about a team that's just won 2 championships, this is a big, big game. And I'll say this for Florida in particular. These games leading into the Olympics are massive for the Panthers because they've got the most Olympians of any team in the National Hockey League. And you'd have to think that, the intensity of that tournament with how many players are going to be representing their countries for Florida in there is going to maybe make it difficult for them just to pick up where they left off and get right back to it. And that's why the story around the Panthers trying to have the opportunity to defend their championship and make the playoffs is going to be a real big one as we get towards Game 82.
Yeah, a bit of a surprise seeing the Panthers at the outside the playoff spot. You look at the injuries, day to day right now. Marchand, Seth Jones not going to be in the Olympics. Kulikov's on IR. Thomas Nosek's out, and Barkov's been out all year. So I'm curious what version of the Florida Panthers we're going to see tonight. They've been kind of inconsistent this year, and that's to be expected when you're missing so many guys, including your number 1 center and top defenseman who you traded for last year at the deadline. But compare the 2 teams at the standings. I'm amazed, Huss, when you look at the Winnipeg Jets and their goal differential -4. I think it shows you how unlucky they're. And they have a better goal differential than every team out of the playoffs, a better goal differential than the Ducks, who are in a playoff spot, than the Kraken, who are in a playoff spot. And I think that tells you, okay, they've been on the wrong side of a number of 1-goal games, which we know, and they can't win in overtime, which has been a problem for them. For them this year, you look at their overtime losses, 6, and overtime wins, I believe it's 1. They have 1 overtime goal this year. So it's, there's been elements of the Jets play that you certainly haven't liked here. And, Scott Arniel was asked today about third period goals. They have the second lowest number of third period goals in the league this year, which was very interesting because you look at goals in the first and second period, they were in the top 10 in the league in both of those. And so third periods have been a problem, either not being able to score, giving up leads, and that's why they are where they are. And that 11 game losing streak just sunk their whole season. They could be in it with Nashville, LA, San Jose, but when you lose 1-goal games, you can't win in overtime. It
was like we talked with Murat yesterday.
Yeah.
I mean, just going through just on that in that 11-game streak. I mean, the Minnesota game, the Edmonton game, the Vegas game, the Toronto game,
Ottawa.
You can easily pick out 7 points that were just left on the table that right now are the difference. But making up 7 points over the course of just over 30 games, incredibly difficult, especially when there's so many teams ahead of you that'll be getting points as well. Listen, let's get to the clean lines right off the bat, because I do want to mention a big opportunity for Josh Morrissey coming up. Jet lines and lines for the game, as always, brought to you by our friends at Clean Line Plumbing, Heating, and Electrical, your local leader for over 40 years and the official plumbing service of the Winnipeg Jets, captain approved by the one and only Adam Lowry himself. We got Connor Scheifele and Iafallo together. Jonathan Toews, who's been playing real well, he's in between Velarde and Perfetti. Lowry, Niederreiter, and Nemetsnikov, and Morgan Barron in between Gus Nyquist and Tanner Pearson, which means Cole Koepke out, Danny Zhilkin out today for the Winnipeg Jets. And, of course, Isaac Phillips returns to the press box because Elias Salmonson's good to go. It'll be Salo and Samberg, Stanley and Shen, and Dylan DeMello and Josh Morrissey as the Jets' defense pairings tonight. Connor Hellebuck getting the start. Potential to see a little history tonight, though, Remo, at the rink, because Josh Morrissey, who has 12 points in 11 games since the new year, is 1 point away from tying Dustin Byfuglien's franchise record for points by a defenseman. Josh has had just such an incredible career. Of course, he'll be representing the Jets in Winnipeg in the Olympic Games for Canada. And he's 1 point away from tying Big Buff and another point away from setting the record. And, you sort of realize that, especially those of us that remember the 1.0 era, almost spoiled with what Josh has turned into. And he's on the verge of becoming the most decorated defenseman in either era of Winnipeg Jets professional hockey, tying Buff if he can get a point tonight. And, of course, being the last man standing and the top point scorer ever for Winnipeg Jet defenseman when he gets to.
Yeah, he's came out really hot here since the new year. 12 points in 11 games since January 1. And you look at all-time Winnipeg Jets, going back to 1.0, the 1.0 leader was Frederick Olsen, 335 points in 496 games. Josh has got 415 now in 711 games. Buff, part of his points accumulated in Atlanta as well, but yeah, can be the most decorated defenseman for points. And we've seen a number of milestones this year. Mark Scheifele, hitting 500 points, hitting, goals and all that. And it's amazing how many players right now are going to be franchise leaders in terms of, 1.0 or 2.0, either one, whatever records you want to go. But Josh Morrissey here now for over 700 games, the most points by a defenseman, and well-deserved. He's having an exceptional season, drafted by the organization, came up, played with the Ice Caps for a playoff run, played a season with the Moose, and then made his way to the Jets here since 2016, full-timer. Awesome to see his progression into an all-timer, and now we'll get to see him representing Canada at the Olympics in Milan. It's great to see.
Yeah, no, and listen, when he does break this milestone, I really hope that it happens over the next 2 games. It would be great to have that happen at home. He's such a fan favorite, and he's been such an incredible Winnipeg Jet that it seems only right that he could do it in front of the fans that have seen him grow into one of the best defensemen in the National Hockey League. Now, we are going to get to the Jet dressing room. And we got to hear from Maurice as well. But I think Rod Peterson's good to go. So we'll bring Rod in just a minute, and we'll get to some of the audio after Rod joins us. Do want to remind you that while it is freezing outside right now, never a better time to spend some time indoors at Uptown Alley down at 1301 St. Matthews Avenue. Don't worry about spending the time outside. Rip in and take advantage of all the amazing fun they've got waiting for you at Uptown Alley with tons of 5-pin lanes, 10-pin lanes, a state-of-the-art arcade, other games where you can win tickets to exchange for prizes to take home, and of course, amazing food and beverage options to make the most of your time indoors while it's so damn cold outside. A great spot for birthday parties and group outings as well. Their event staff will take care of everything, and every day after 9 p.m., they got a great bowl and play special for $20.49, 90 minutes of 5-pin bowling, and a $10 arcade card. Check them out online, uptownalley.ca. You can call them 488-000 to make a reservation or set something up, or just head down there and have an absolute blast, nice and warm inside at Uptown Alley at 1301 St. Matthews Avenue. If you got a move planned in 2026, folks, lean on our friends at Rolly's Transfer, family-owned and operator for over 60 years and the most trusted name in moving in Manitoba. Rolly's will do it all for you and take the stress out of the move for as much as possible for what's always a stressful time. And they'll do it with great rates. Head on over to Rollies.com and click on Request an Estimate. Put in that promo code WST for a special discount for moving services and moving supplies. And then simply let them know when and where you're moving, what needs to be moved. They'll turn it around with a great quote and get you locked in for the white glove treatment that Rollies has been famous for over 60 years. Rollies, the most trusted name in the moving game. Find out more today at Rollies.com. As I said, it's a great day to be working from home. But if you do have to get out, there's realistic things you got to be on top of. And one of those things is your teeth. Folks, if you haven't been to the dentist in a while, what are you waiting for? It's better to be proactive than reactive when it comes to that. Take it from me. Our friend Dr. Terry and the wonderful staff at St. Vital Dental Center would love to take care of you and your family's dental needs, as they've been doing for generations of Manitobans. Pop by and see them at their beautiful new facility, 167 St. Anne's Road. Convenient free parking right behind the building. And they do it all for our clients from 6 months to 99 plus, with a full array of dental services, from cleanings and checkups to things like dental implants. The doc can do it all. Make an appointment today, stvitaldental.ca. Tell them the boys at WST sent you. And hey, a big cheers as well to our friends at Canadian Club, Canada's official Canadian whiskey. Probably a few people hitting the LC and deciding to stay home for a few days, I'd imagine, right now. Of course, Canadian Club since 1848, the iconic standard for Canadian whiskey. And keep your eyes out for the Canadian Club limited edition cranberry ginger ale. Some quantities still available coming out of the holidays, and you can pick up singles of the cranberry ginger ale at your local beer store as well next time you're running in for a rack. All right, let's get to this game tonight. Now, normally when we speak with our next guest, we are often talking football, CFL football, NFL football. We might do that, but Rod Peterson is now Florida man. Rod Peterson, and not only hosting the RP show every day, but also the Cats and Bolts podcast. So what a perfect day to welcome Hot Rod back to the show. What's going on? How are you?
Good to see you, Hustler. Happy New Year. Can we still say that?
I mean, we can. We haven't spoken in the New Year's. So, I mean, listen, we're dealing with it right now. I've been envious about your winter setup for a while, but with what's going on throughout the entire United States, all the way up here to the prairies, you, my friend, are one of a select group of people that are not being impacted crazily by winter storms, crazy snow, ice, and, of course, bitter cold. That we're welcoming the Panthers into Winnipeg today. It's minus 30, Rod.
Oh, believe me, I know. 5 years here, by the way, now, Hustler. 5 years here covering the Panthers and now the Lightning, too. You mentioned the Cats and Bolts podcast. But I'll say this. If this was an outdoor game, the Jets would definitely have the advantage tonight. They, I don't know if you follow the Panthers media and their people, their social media, but they're all tweeting, posting screenshots of the weather. I'm like, wow, I know what it's like. They all said, or not all, but a lot said they're going to the Fairmont, not leaving their room, getting room service. You just said it's a great day to stay home. I think the Panthers would be staying home tonight if they could. Oh, my God.
Well, and that's the funny thing. I mean, it is an indoor game. I think about that Chiefs-Dolphins playoff game that I went to a couple of years ago. It was one of the coldest games of all time. And, I mean, I said to the guys, I'm surprised the Dolphins even agreed to get on the bus from the hotel. And that's the way it looked on the field. Obviously, a little different when they're just getting on the bus to the hotel, going into the arena and playing. But listen, we've lamented what's happened to the Jets season with all these close losses and where they're at in the standings. If you hadn't been paying attention to the Eastern Conference, you just know, hey, Florida's one of the best teams in the league. You expect them to be there. They're in a real fight right now, Rod, and these are really important games for them to make a bit of ground ahead of the Olympic break, considering that this is the team that has the most Olympians of any team in the National Hockey League, and they still need to secure their spot in the Stanley Cup tournament.
Oh, I know, and I see that. I think it's 9 Panthers are going to the Olympics, and that's something to puff your chest out about. But I mean, for a team that's played more games in the last 3 years than any team in NHL history in that span, that they would like the rest. They need the rest. You saw Seth Jones is being left off the Team USA roster because of the collarbone he suffered in the Winter Classic. They're kind of a tired team to be like everybody else is going to get a break. The Panthers aren't. Half the team's going to Italy, so that's one thing. And then 2, you mentioned them being in a fight right now. Paul Maurice made a comment the other night after the San Jose game here Monday, a 4-1 loss. It was something along the lines of, we're in trouble here, or we're in danger here. And I think I knew what he meant. He's talking about the standings. At that time, they were only 4 points out. As of yesterday, they were 5 points out. I don't know what they are today. I don't know, man. I'm sitting here going, you still got a half a season to go. And if the Panthers don't make it, it'll clearly be because of injuries. That was Tkachuk's first game back on Monday night. He didn't do a whole lot. Barkov hasn't played all year. Now Seth Jones is hurt. I don't know that there's a team in the NHL with more injury concerns or man games lost than the Panthers, yet they're still in it. Paul better than anybody. He's a positive guy. I'm just kind of chalking it up to they lost to the Sharks and he was grumpy. We all know grumpy hockey coaches.
Yeah.
They're not guys you want to be around after losses too badly.
No, but I think there's a certain standard that he and that team has set, becoming 2-time defending Stanley Cup champs. And with that comes crazy expectations. But I'll tell you what, if this team was not 2-time defending Stanley Cup champs, it was just, one of the top teams. They had some, like the Hurricanes, go into the conference finals a couple times, but hadn't won. And then lost their most important player, Barkov, along with the other guys. You would have thought, and there were some people that said, you know what, this is going to be a real challenge for the Florida Panthers, a very different challenge than they've had in the past to survive the regular season, to find a way to get into the playoffs. And, the one thing, I'm sure you've noticed this, the East is so wide open. The Panthers at 53 points are 5 out of a wild card spot, but ahead of them are Washington, Jersey, Philly, Toronto. Much like the Jets, it's not just the amount of ground you got to catch up, it's the teams you have to pass. And you can't be leaving points on the table, and unfortunately it's a big reason why the Jets are where they are in the standings. Yeah,
I know, but it's a half a season left. That can be made up in a week. I'm just kind of sitting here going,
the thing is, it can't. That, we think about that, but dude, these teams are all playing each other. Half the games are going to overtime in their 3-point games.
Yes.
The thing that you cannot do is lose in regulation consistently. If you get a point instead of 2, whatever, you're staying there right now. But the minute you lose in regulation, the Jets are a perfect example. Well, they ran off, they went 4-0-1 in 5 games. And they were up, they made up 4 points to the wild card and passed one team. And then lost one game, and all of a sudden they were back in 31st in the National Hockey League. So it's like the objects in the mirror are closer than they appear. They're actually farther away than they appear because of what is happening around these teams. So I think this is urgent time for the Panthers going into the Olympic break.
Oh, it is. Hey, I'm not disputing that. And actually, Scruffy, he co-hosts with me Monday, Tuesday. I said, have the playoffs started already, Scruffy? And he was like, no, I think they have after the Olympics. And I'm like, that may be true. But this game tonight is like a playoff game for the Panthers and the Jets. And by the way, if whatever the reason is that the bottom's fallen up for the Jets, because I'd still like to believe they're coming back. I don't know where you stand on that. I just think they're too good to finish out of the playoffs. But the loss of Ehlers is a huge thing. But imagine Ehlers and somebody else, like an Adam Lowry, like your captain. Barkov's the captain. Tkachuk hasn't played yet. Pretty easy to draw a line to what the issue is here. In my mind, it's the injuries. But, The other thing was Monday night was the Sergei Bobrovsky goalie fight, which
What
they are
what
still
was
talking
that?
about. I don't know. They're still talking about that
Did he
here.
talk afterwards? I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
it was,
Oh, my
just seemed
God.
like such a bizarre, like Bob and Ned throwing down in a Panthers Sharks game. Like,
Well, the whole game had this nastiness. I'm like, how do these two teams hate each other so much? San Jose and Florida, you couldn't get much further apart than these two. Listen, I should send you the clip, or better yet, watch the Cats and Bolts podcast, because we played Bob's comment after the game. He was smiling about it. He was laughing about it. He'd never been in a fight before. And the only thing is, his English still isn't great, so we couldn't really make out what he was saying, but it was something along the lines of, when you see somebody mocking you, I thought he went over the line. But we replayed it like 5 times. Did he say mocking? And Nedeljkovic, if you watch the play, he had left the crease to get involved in a fray in the corner, and that's when Bob just took off like a shot. And the thing was, I was sitting in the press box beside a hockey guy by the name of Peter Micheludi from Sudbury. I'm watching the scrum, and he's elbowing me, going, "Here comes Bob! Here comes Bob!" And I'm fumbling for my phone, to get to video this, because what the hell? And there was a good fight.
there hadn't been a goalie fight since the Battle of Alberta. I think it was Talbot and Mike Smith 5 or 6 years ago.
February 1st, 2020. I was watching it on Hockey Night in Canada.
So there you have it. I mean, listen, I did not have that on my bingo card, but I also didn't have the Panthers being in the situation like this road trip right now, starting tonight in Winnipeg through the Central Division. Listen. You're right. I mean, they'll have plenty of other opportunities, especially head-to-head against the teams that they're chasing, as you get it down the stretch. But Winnipeg, a very good Minnesota team on Saturday, back-to-back against Chicago on Sunday, and then Utah and St. Louis before hosting the Jets when they return home next weekend. This is that period heading into the Olympic break, then with big Eastern games of teams in playoff spots, Buffalo, Boston, and the Lightning, who have been lights out for the last month or so. Really key, because the one thing that I think Florida, and this goes back to the Olympic Games, Rod, no matter what, they're going to be in a dogfight coming out of the Olympics. It's a sprint to the finish in those final 5 weeks of the season. And they've already played the most hockey of anyone, and they're going to have the most Olympians there. So I think that stacking as many points as they can, if they're going to be a playoff team before the Olympic break, is going to be absolutely crucial for this team.
Well, should be a hell of a game tonight. Starts with 1. And I'm hoping or assuming you saw Paul Maurice's comments before they left Florida. He was asked about going back to Winnipeg, and he said looking forward to it. His daughter still lives there. He said he's never won there since he left with the Panthers. So the team will see that. They love Paul, so they're going to rally behind him. I can't wait for the game tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern. You're right, but you can only win one game at a time. But I've never asked you, Hustler, how big are you on analytics? I know you're big on the betting. You must use it for betting, do you?
Yeah. Listen, I have. I mean, analytics is essentially just, digging a little deeper and taking statistics on that. It's just information, and I'm here for more information as opposed to less. I do often question how a lot of the information is gathered. Like, I think we're far from. I think there's a level of imperfection as far as what people are counting in whatever statistics that there are. I think it's far from perfect. So, sometimes you have to take it a bit with a grain of salt. But I certainly think it's very useful and, important information. If you're not paying attention to it, you're probably a step behind.
I'm totally with you on all of that. That's exactly my viewpoint. But the reason I ask is, have you noticed road teams are winning more and teams on back-to-back nights are winning more? For instance, New Jersey going into Edmonton the other night, who would have thought they would win a night after winning in Calgary and Jacob Markstrom's return, and he doesn't even play the next night, and they make the Oilers look like fools. It's happening all over the NHL, and that never used to happen. You could always bet on the team playing the back-to-back night would lose, especially on the road. And that's not happening anymore. I don't know why.
And it happened just this week. The Jets had that big Jonathan Taves return to Chicago on Monday, a game that they felt that or I at least thought that they had to have if they want to, make any sort of a rush. They lose in regulation. They can't score a goal. And then St. Louis was sitting here in Winnipeg the entire time. They just played in Edmonton. They got to fly back. They get back at 2 a.m, taking on St. Louis the next day, to me, this was a real test for the team as to whether they would look like a defeated team that maybe had lost it. And listen, to their credit, really the power play was what got it done. I mean, this was not maybe the Picasso game that you're putting up as the model, but they were able to find a way to win. And as far as the Oilers go, I mean, I just finished up doing the lock shop with Dusty. They haven't won 3 in a row all season long.
Mm-hmm.
It is crazy. Every time they win 2, they fall in the next one. They have not been able to put up that stretch. So kind of funny, we're talking Florida and talking Edmonton right now, because no one would be surprised if at the end of it all, we saw a third battle between those two teams. But man, it just shows how impressive it was that both of those teams got back there last year because of how hard it is to survive the regular season, never mind making it to the 4th round of the Stanley Cup playoffs.
There's a lot of people around here that thought when Barkov went down on the first day of training camp, that's it for their 3-peat chances. And I wasn't one of those, because as we sit here in January, they're still, as you said, only 5 points out of a playoff spot. So I have faith that they're going to get in. I really do. They got to stop getting injuries, of course. But Paul Maurice, sneakily, maybe it's because they're in Florida, nobody's paying attention to what's going on here, but they took their foot off the gas last year from the Four Nations face-off on. Resting guys. Tkachuk never played again. He didn't care about burning out to finish first, which the Leafs did. And how did that work out? You know what I mean? So that's what, I mean, this guy's a master. You know that. Maybe you've talked enough on Winnipeg Sports Talk about Paul Maurice. You get it. But I mean, this guy, couldn't possibly have a better coach on the bench to manage how they're going to do this. And the thing is, too, without the stars I've mentioned, you watch tonight, Hustler. Are you going to the game?
Oh, yeah.
They're a really good team without those guys. 9 Olympians.
And that's what's so impressive.
Yeah.
I mean, I think of guys like Lundell and, Luosterainen and Samoskevich and Rodriguez. I mean, these are players that are totally, I mean, listen, they don't get the attention they probably deserve because of the star power. And we're always talking about Marchand and, where's Tkachuk and Barkov, but I mean, they've been very competitive and kept a team that, to be honest, on a lot of nights with the guys that have been out of their lineup, probably don't have a lot of business going toe-to-toe with the top teams in the league, and they've been able to do it, although there have been a few ugly nights for the Panthers, too. I mean, they gave up a 9 spot to the Canes a couple weeks ago, and but with a veteran team like that, you can just wash that and move on to the next one. It's very different than teams that don't have the accomplishments of this one.
They went into Washington and won the next day 5-2. So they have the ability to do. The culture wins, and I've been very lucky since we just had a young pro hockey player come on Cats and Bolts yesterday. He plays for the Orlando Solar Bears, and he was home here in Boca for the All-Star break. And he came in and he said, it's so nice to sit here talking hockey in Boca Raton. 5-10 years ago, we would never have done that. And I don't know what that's like, Hustler. I don't know. I hear the most horrible things of what it was like for Florida hockey coverage years ago. I guess it was just abhorrent. I kind of got a sense of that in Arizona when I was hanging around and my buddy owned the Coyotes, but it's just, I can't imagine an NHL market with no hockey talk. Can you imagine? But there is now.
Oh, for sure. I mean, the sport has grown so much and changed so much, and winning changes everything. And in both Tampa, and in Florida, they've got rings. Where's that rivalry at right now?
They hate each other. Well, I'll stop you. They freaking hate each other.
It started in the preseason.
Well, it started a couple playoff series ago, to be honest. Like that night, I took my neighbor Fish to the game. He'd never been to a hockey game before. He's from South, never been to a hockey game before. 314 penalty minutes, whatever it was, like 15 ejections from the game. And he's like, when are we going again? I'm like, Fish, it's not always like that. There hasn't been a game like that for 30 years, and there won't be. There's a reporter here that I won't mention him, but he's been covering the Panthers a long time, and we just happened to be killing some time at the Winter Classic a couple of weeks ago, and he's like, these teams. And he was talking about the Lightning and the Panthers, and they really do. Like that preseason game, that Sabrin, I watched, because I know how to watch a hockey game. He stepped on the ice and went straight for Ekblad and forearm him right his head into the glass. I'm like, where are we? Moose Jaw in 1995? and the Lightning ended up being fined $100,000 for that. John Cooper got a $25,000 fine. And then the last game was a gong show. The game was over 3 hours long. And Paul Maurice was asked by that same reporter after the game, not me. He goes, how do you feel about these games? You can't get any flow going with Tampa with the starts and the stops. And Paul just goes, I'm used to it with these guys. And nobody picked up on it. It's awesome, man. If you want to know, it's awesome. They hate each other.
I mean, as a fan with no skin in the game and likely a playoff free agent when things get going, there's nothing I'd want to see more than a 7-game series between the Cats and the Bolts. And certainly that would give you a lot to talk about.
There was fights in the stands last year after Game 5 in Tampa because I was down walking around the concourse and I'm like, this is awesome, but it's terrible. But it's like, this is what we've always wanted. But it was bad. Because when they first met in the playoffs 4 years ago, or 5 years ago, was the first time they'd ever met. The Panthers won in Tampa Bay, and their fans were wishing Panthers fans well on their way out of the building 5 years ago. Now they're fighting.
Yeah.
So that kind of tells you how it's gone.
Rod, always great having you on the program. Very quickly, who do you think, who are we going to be seeing play in San Francisco in the Super Bowl?
Well, I had Bills Lions, so I'm thinking Patriots Seahawks. How about you?
Yeah, I mean, like obviously what's happened with Bo Nix being out really kind of changes the equation for the AFC Championship game. I think I'd have to lean Patriots just based on the quarterback situation. And I'll be honest, I think the game of the year is going to be the NFC Championship game. When you think about the two games between those teams, especially that Thursday nighter, the 38-37 overtime game, I think we're in for a treat. And I think that game is going to set the bar pretty high for it. But I think I'm with you on that one. I think Seattle's defense, home field advantage. I mean, there's not a lot to choose between those teams, so I think we'll ride on that. RP, great to see you as always. Popped in, enjoyed some of your chats on the RP show. Of course, you can check that out, folks, on YouTube or on Game Plus Network at 11 a.m., leading right into WST. And Rod, I don't need to tell you to beware of the weather. You got it made right now, pal. So kick back, enjoy the game tonight, and be thankful for every minute.
Stay warm. Enjoy the game, buddy. Good seeing you.
Right
Thank
on.
you.
There's Rod Peterson. Make sure you check out the Rod Peterson show wherever you're watching YouTube on YouTube, and of course over on the Game Plus Network. All right, we do got to get to a little Paul Maurice here. Let's well, first off, let's start with the home team, the Winnipeg Jets. Scott O'Neill spoke earlier today and talked about their first matchup of the season against the two-time defending champions.
Yeah, even with if they're banged up with their injuries, no matter what, they're still a real competitive team, and proven that the last few years. They play heavy, hard hockey, and nothing's going to change. It's one of those games, if you're not ready to throw it back at them, it can be a long night. So what are they, sitting 5 back of a spot? We're 7 back of a spot. I think both teams are extremely hungry right now and looking for points. So we got to match, be better, or match, be as good as what they're going to try to throw at us.
All right, there's it. Oh, Turcotte with these super chats in here. We have a big rivalry between Hot Rod and Turcotte. Still waiting for my on-air apology, RP. Wish we could meet in person, as I'm petty and don't forget things. Jeez, we haven't had this sort of beef in the in the chat in a long time. It's a goalie fight. I'd gladly take it center ice. Wow, Turcotte. It's not that anyone needs to cool down right now with the weather, but we can just relax. That is that's some pretty funny stuff. More O'Neill though, and Michael had mentioned Jets, doing well in the first and second periods, and the scoring's really dried up in the third period. Scott O'Neill was asked about that this morning as well.
We had the lead on a few of those and probably sat back. The other side, earlier on, you're probably chasing, trying to catch up. Don't have the exact answer on it. I hope that it's not that we're not trying on purpose to change our style of play in the third period. I think that it's just something that we've talked about, trying to do a better job with. I think there was a fragile stage there where we were afraid to make a mistake, and then when you do that and you're on your heels, and it's the opposition is coming at you all night long. So we've talked about it, we've looked at it. So it just, I think just for us, that's last week's news, that it's tonight. If we get in that scenario tonight, we got to make sure that we continue to play that the right way.
All right, there's Scott Arniel and just the lack of third period scoring and maybe some reasons behind that. Now, I know that WST has become Winnipeg Stand Talk over the last few weeks at times. It's not just us; it's the local media as well. Scott Arniel was asked about Stanley's performance and moving to his offside last game with Isaac Phillips coming in for a sick Elias Salmonson.
That's a big step, not kind of known in Chicago until right before warm-up that he was going to have to play the right side. I thought he did a great job. Did a great job the other night against St. Louis as well. For a big man, it can be a hard thing, being on that opposite side when the puck comes your backhand a lot. But I thought he handled it really well. And the other side of it opens up his shot a little bit more for the one-timers from his partner, and thought he did a good job with that. And then filling in on the power play, that's been good as well. And he recognizes he had, I think, 2-3 shot opportunities on it the other night. So take advantage of the ice that he's been given. I've said that all year about Stan. From when Sandberg was hurt, he's done that, and he's having a good year because he's taking the opportunities and running with them.
Yeah, and I imagine you will get the same buzz in the arena if PP2 gets out there and 64 is getting the puck on his stick tonight. Arnie was asked also about Stanley's development, others like Dylan Sandberg under his time as the coach over the last couple of years.
I think that's the player. I think the players recognize that they have a skill set, to bring every night, to work on in practices, to when you get the opportunity in games. My job in that is to give them the opportunity. It's theirs to go and take advantage of. And like I said with Stan, Sandberg took, we kind of built him on a couple of years, I think, with Scheif and Casey and all those guys. Those are real top-end skilled players, and it really is putting them in situations where they can have success and use their talents as best they can.
All right, now, big picture, it is still a very long and steep hill for the Winnipeg Jets to climb. Got an important win coming off a disappointing loss on Monday night. Now you're hosting the Stanley Cup champions. Scott Arniel was just talked and asked about just the level of belief within his dressing room.
I think once we got that win finally to break that streak of losses, it's the belief now is kind of back in there again, and we're feeling good. We're making plays, doing the right things. But the other side as well, not that we weren't doing it before, but you're really seeing the shot blocking, taking a hit to make a play, all those little things that you need to do to have success to win hockey games. But there's desperation in our game now that we knew that we're going to have to really put a push on here, and all our last 7 games have been really good, and we need to continue. Every night we need points, so continue with the confidence, feel good about how we're doing things, and go get results.
Jets head coach Scott Arniel. Just before we listen to what Paul Maurice had to say coming back to the Peg, let's grab the captain, Adam Lowry. He talked about the game tonight and going up against the 2-time champs.
Yeah, I don't know if there's a huge difference. I think, regardless of the game, points are so critical for us right now. We're looking to keep climbing the standings and, you kind of continue this run of good games that we've had. Anytime you're playing a team that's, gotten to the top, it's a measuring stick game, but they're so beat up. I think it's hard to compare where their team is right now to what they looked like the last 2 postseasons. Obviously, they get a big boost with Kachuk coming back last game, but they're still a great team over there. So we're approaching it like we've approached the last several. 2 points are critical for us.
There's the captain. There's the Jets side. We don't normally spend too much time listening to the audio from the opponents or the visiting team or the visiting coaches. But this isn't just any coach. This is Paul Maurice. You knew he'd have a lot to say coming back to Winnipeg, and he did not disappoint. The Panthers are here for their lone visit of the season, and Paul Maurice talked this morning about what he enjoys about coming back to Winnipeg where he coached the Jets.
Oh, all of it. This is little flashes of memories. Get to see my daughter, which is really nice, and she coached a game last night, so that was a little special joy there for me to watch her standing behind the bench and then stand there after an overtime loss, wondering what kind of mood she's got. It's the first time I've ever waited for a coach to come out and wonder what kind of mood they'd be in. It was awesome. Like, truly, I'm sitting there thinking, well, first of all, how long is this going to take? I think about how many hours my wife's waited for me, but see what kind of mood she's in. And then the drive to her place, and she was talking about the game, and God, it was like looking in a mirror. She was shift changes she missed, some things she missed. She's talking about all the things that could have changed, and then how happy she was about the way her girls had played. So I had a great night last night. It was fun.
What is the team she coaches?
The St. Mary's High School team, yeah.
Who handles overtime losses better, her or you?
Oh, she's way more solid than I am. But honest to God, the words coming out of her mouth, I've said in my own head 1,000 times, right? She's talking about a line change late in the second period. Wish she had, anyway, that's, I was actually really impressed with how aware she was of what happened in the game on the bench and the details that she would change. So I'm not sure she's ready for a life of it. I think she should probably stick to teaching. It's a little calmer, but it was a great night.
Was that a first you said too? Or
I'm sorry?
Was that a
first time seeing her? Yeah, like she's been on the bench before, and but it was the first time kind of at a game for her. Yeah, it was good.
All right, so a little homecoming for Pomo with his daughter, a big part of the hockey program over at SMA. They got a great women's hockey program that has really grown over the last number of years. Back to business, though, for Paul Maurice. His teams, we talked to with Rod and off the top of the program, not in a playoff spot right now, 5 points back. Here's what Maurice had to say about where the Cats are right now and being outside of the playoffs.
We've had couple of pretty good years. So you have an expectation then, right? That your expectation rises of what your game should look like. Losses are harder because you get used to winning and you crave it. And when it doesn't happen for you, there's a frustration that you have to watch. I think our guys have handled it exceptionally well. I think we learned last year, you're also looking for a different energy source. So when you're just on the edge of it, when we had lost the first year, you bring that edge to the rink every night. Stayed pretty healthy that second year. We certainly stayed healthy through the playoffs. Got just lucky with that. But then you come back again after 2 now, and we were 15 minutes into that first practice on our first day of training camp, and we're going up and down the ice, and I go, my God, we got a good team. And then Barkey went down. The world changed. So there's that emotion that I think that we still are fighting for on a regular basis. It's hard to put the long string but I'm also burning these guys out. I know that. I'm running them so hard and the condensed schedule and all those things. With all those are factors, not excuses for us. They're just factors. And we've handled that pretty darn well. Our analytics are better than our record. So we just believe that if we stay in the fight long enough, that we can do it. All we got to do is make the playoffs. We never had home ice advantage in any of our rounds, so we just got to get there. But getting there in the East right now is a task.
You know, Reem, I'll say this. Listen, Paul's done a great job there in Florida. I mean, the rings speak for themselves. But it is, it frankly would be understandable if this team, with the injuries that they've had and how much hockey that they've played, fell short of their goal to get in. But I'll tell you what, if they do get in, no one is going to want to play them.
No, if they get in, assuming they're going to be healthy at that time, like could Barkov come back, Seth Jones back in the lineup as well. So, yeah, they could definitely be scary. They've been in the playoffs. They've done it the last 2 years. They know what it takes, but they're currently not in. And you look at their defense, I mean, they've got Ekblad and Forsling, but I mean, Nico Mikla and Juvis Balenskis, that's normally their third pair. They're playing second pair minutes here with a couple guys out. So we'll see, Kulikov and Seth Jones. So we'll see how it plays out for the Panthers tonight. But yeah, they're in a tough spot, and I kind of agree. Like, they've played 2 years. You have the compressed schedule. You're seeing a number of injuries around the league. Toronto, it seems like they've got a new one injured every day. And without your top center, it's going to be tough for any team. And you said it too. They have a lot of guys going to the Olympics. That just takes another toll. So I'm interested as well to see, how crazy would it be to have, you guarantee new champion without the Panthers in the playoffs.
Yeah. Listen, back to a bit of Maurice. I mean, you knew that someone would ask Maurice what he thought about their last game against San Jose, and of course the Bob Ned goalie fight that took place. Here's what Maurice on that.
I can't remember it. I can't. There was some fake attempts at a fight where they got fairly close to each other, and somehow the linesman got in there. And then there was a lot of waving arms at that point, but it was. I saw Sergei go blasting down the ice, but I was watching that there were two Ds being kind of held out of the scrum a little bit by the referee, and hold the face-off inside and all that. We're chasing. And there goes Sergei blasting, and my thought was like two concurrent thoughts. The first is, he's kind of deserved to have a little bit of fun. For 2 years, it's a very pressure-filled situation that he is, because he goes long stretches where he wouldn't get any action, and then it's a breakaway, and he's just so good at that. So, and then there's the thought of, hands or face. Like, if you're going to break something, I don't want it just for him personally. I don't want it to be his face. I'd rather it be his hand, but his hand might be harder for. That's a lot that blasts through your brain, and then really, really happy when it's over. Really happy when it's over.
It is kind of funny with hearing Maurice talk about Bob and just Bobrovsky overall, Reem, in that, he signed that $10 million contract and didn't really perform very well early on. And if I'm not mistaken, the first time that the Panthers went to the playoffs under Paul Maurice, he actually started Alex Lyon ahead of Bobrovsky, and now Bob is the man and has 2 Stanley Cups and could very well be on his way to the Hall of Fame.
2 Stanley Cups, 2 Vezina trophies, and there was a time where we were saying, yeah, this is a terrible contract for the Panthers. He's overpaid, but it doesn't matter. He won the 2 cups, so it's definitely earned whatever he's getting at this time. And yeah, he's kind of guy who's had an up and down career. And you look at, great first year in Columbus, Calder nomination. Second year took a step back, but he's had some great years where he's been a league leader in goals against and save percentage. And then he's had some years, his first couple years in Florida, certainly some adjustments there. This year, the numbers aren't where you'd like them to be. 875 goals against average, 875 save percentage, 309 goals against average. But as we are going to be seeing the backup tonight, I believe, Tarasov starting in net. So we won't get a look at Bobrovsky tonight. Yes, confirmed.
No Bob Hellebuck showdown at center ice. Going to be happening tonight.
No, we have Panthers radio play-by-play voice Doug Plagins saying that it is Tarasov as per Paul Maurice.
One more from Bo, and of course it's kind of neat that he's here this week following the announcement of the alumni game and the Heritage Classic. And Maurice was just asked about, the Jets-Habs outdoor game, and of course the alumni game, the many people that he coached a ton of games for here in the Peg.
Paul, just the other day they announced that they're going to have an alumni game here with 2.0 members of the Winnipeg Jets.
Did they get a hold of Buff?
They did.
Really? Is he coming?
He's in.
Yeah, he's training right now. Yeah. He's training for that game. I know it.
Yeah. But just in terms of some of the past experiences you've had with outdoor games, how different was it on, was it January 1st, I think? The
second, yeah.
The second, yeah.
It was awesome, different. I mean, I was part of 3 of them here. The Heritage game here with Edmonton was special, and I felt that one almost the Legends game the day before. So many great players out there that we all kind of grew up with, and I thought that game kind of felt like maybe a gift to Mark Chipman, like for bringing the team back, and then to have a full building, like it was kind of like the team was back in so many ways. The next one was pure hockey outdoor fun. Brian, little overtime in Calgary. It was snowing, and we were starting a road trip, so we got to kind of live on it for a day or two. That was just fantastic, but cold. This one reminded me, because I think the game here, I think Buff toe picked at the blue line. They went down and scored. Like, there were 3 really unusual goals, and we gave up 3 shorthanded goals, 3 power. We were killing a penalty, and we just never do that. So it was kind of one of those off games. But for the spectacle and for the game of hockey, certainly in the South, it was incredibly well done. And every year, I would say then kind of that, the production of it, the quality of the experience for everybody was fantastic. We had our entire families were down, our grandparents, babies. We got like 13 babies in our so we had this great big family event. It was great for the game. We think it's a long way from here, but great for the game.
All right, there's Pomo with his address to the Winnipeg media today. I knew we'd want to hear that, and he's still got it in front of the microphone. There's no doubt about that. While we're talking about the Panthers, I know we've talked a lot about the Jets in the playoffs. Interested to what you think. Let's get to the why not question of the day for not Autocorp at Waverly and McGillivray. Do you think the Panthers will make the playoffs? And you can mention, they're 5 points back. There's 4 teams in the middle, but they've got some real unique challenges built in from their 2 cup runs in the last 2 seasons. And then you add in 9 Olympians. I'm going to be very interesting to see if they get it done. What do you think? Let us know in the chat. All right, Rue's about to jump on with us to talk more Jets and more NHL. But before that, I want to remind you that tickets are on sale now, folks, for the St. B Mega Million Choices Lottery. Get over to stbmegamillionchoices.ca and grab your tickets to support the amazing work and research done at the St. Boniface Hospital, and count yourself in for a chance to be Manitoba's next millionaire. Grand prizes include your choice of one of 5 dream home packages valued at $1.5 million, or how about $1.25 million tax-free cash? Now, buying early is key, because not only will you be in for all the amazing grand prizes, but the winter bonuses worth over $73,000 if you get your tickets before January 29th. And, of course, the ultimate bonus, $140,000 in prizes and cash, including that amazing World Cup experience with the deadline of the 20th. You'll be in for another $280,000 of early bird prizes and everything available for this amazing lottery in support of the St. Boniface Hospital. So go to stbmegamillionchoices.ca. You can also buy your tickets in person at London Drugs or Red River Co-op locations, all for a great cause, and incredible prizes in this lottery that is on right now. Get your tickets early and count yourself in for everything. A huge thanks to our friends at Princess Auto for their support of WST. Of course, Princess Auto, founded and headquartered right here in Winnipeg and now serving Canadians coast to coast. 3 Manitoba locations, Panet Road, Portage Avenue West, and out in Brandon. That's where you'll find the best deals on the most unique assortment of tools and equipment around. Everything you need to complete the projects on your list or start something new waiting for you at Princess Auto. So pop by and see them in store today, or shop online 24/7, 365 over at princessauto.com. Speaking of online, if you haven't checked out the new Chud's Power Sports website, you should do that. Chud's Power Sports for 80 years has been the power sports superstore in Manitoba. We've got big deals for bigger adventures right now as we get into the teeth of winter, with spring and summer just around the corner. Incredible snow day deals on Polaris sleds, saving up to $3,000 off select snowmobiles and up to $4,000 off Polaris select off-road vehicles. Also got amazing timber sled bikes that you can run around in the summer, and amazing options on pretty much everything, in addition to the snow bikes, the snowmobiles, ice fishing shacks, RVs, boats. As we look ahead, they've got it all. Best prices, best deals, and the best staff that have been there for decades helping you get the best deals. And by the way, at the top right corner of the website at chudspowersports.com, you can click on e-commerce store. It'll take you over to truenorthparts.ca, their sister site, with everything you need for parts and incredible deals on clearance gear and accessories. Of course, Chud's Power Sports, the corner of Highway 8 and 231 in Gimli, and online at chudspowersports.com. And as you said right off the top of the show, if you are in a battery situation today, which I'm sure there are many Manitobans that are dealing with it, Manitoba Battery has got you covered. Of course, Donnie and the gang for years have been delivering batteries citywide inside the perimeter. So if that car isn't starting, you need a new one. Shop local, get the best price in town, beating the pants off the big box stores, and you can get it delivered right to you. If you are able to come around, you need a battery tested, pop by to Logan Avenue or Dovercourt Drive locations, and they'll take care of you with the best in customer service and guaranteed best prices in town. Manitoba Battery for all your battery needs, especially right now in the teeth of winter. Order online today at manitobabattery.com. Let's get Brandon Rewicki in here and get the show going on. Rew, what's going on, pal? How are you doing?
Doing pretty good. How's it over there? You guys holding up okay?
Yeah, I'm just trying not to go outside. I'm already strategizing a plan for the game, which involves the minimum time outdoors today as we deal with minus 30 and whatnot. Although I did sort of laugh, of all the days to be a minus 30 high, let it be the day that the Florida Panthers are in town.
That's right. Well, I got a husky at home, so for him, this is like suntan weather. So anybody wants to make a couple of quick bucks, come on down to my side of town. You can walk a husky for 35 minutes because he doesn't care. But yeah, hopefully, I mean, the Panthers come in a little chilly as well, Huss. I saw the standings before, and it's gonna be a battle for them just to dance this.
At the beginning of December, they went on a real nice run after a 4-game losing streak, and they won 7 of 8. But since then, it's win-loss, win-loss, win, loss, win, loss, 2 wins, loss, win, loss. Like, they haven't really been able to put any stretches together. And much like the Jets, or maybe to a lesser point, although they're 5 back with a bunch of teams ahead of them, I mean, if they want to be able to have the opportunity to defend their championship, they're going to need to get on a run. And I was just looking at their schedule heading into the Olympic break. This road trip, or the next 5-6 games, are all within the Central Division. At Winnipeg, and then at Minnesota, at Chicago, home to Utah, at St. Louis, and then back at home to Winnipeg before 3 Eastern games against Buffalo, Boston, and Tampa heading into the break. I mean, I expect this team to be playing with a real sense of urgency right now, because if they don't put a bunch of wins together, we could be talking about guaranteed having a new champ.
Yeah, and I mean, they have been and are dealing with injuries once again, so I think they know, and I mean, yeah, you don't have to tell them. The runway is almost finished here, because I don't know how many teams are ahead of them as well in the wild card chase, but that's almost more daunting than whatever point deficit you're dealing with. Because as we hit into the final 30 some odd games here, there's going to be so many intra-conference, intra-division games that you can't make ground on everybody all at once. And so you're left at this point, I mean, hoping for a bit of luck for both the Panthers and the Jets if you want to be a playoff team, but then also reeling off 9 straight. Like it's going to have to take some kind of a massive win streak like that, because there's going to be, one of the 4 teams ahead of you are also going to find themselves going on a bit of a run as well. So this is, for the Jets, I thought the Blues game was that might have been a definitive put a fork in it type game if they dropped that one. Wasn't the prettiest effort, but they're, the Jets, whether you like it or not, they're hanging around somehow. The Flyers, of course, did them no favors blowing that one to Utah last night. But I mean, what game isn't desperate when you're 6 points out of a playoff spot, right? Like, just you can't be dropping really more than 2 in regulation over a couple weeks span.
No, exactly, and that's why the game on Monday was it felt like such a dagger. You get 9 of 10 points in 5 games coming out of that losing streak that had the potential to completely sink the season. You look at the teams on the docket this week and think that, okay, you have to start it off with a win against the Chicago Blackhawks, and didn't. And, to the Jets' credit, Brandon, I'd said this earlier, but I was really interested in what we were going to see on Tuesday night, in that, it was a murderous part of the schedule where they're in Chicago. There's all the Taves things. They're hanging around afterwards. They don't get back until after 2 a.m. And the Blues have been sitting there waiting to play them. And, to their credit, took advantage of that power play early on and didn't look back. And it also speaks to the importance of special teams, and a reason why maybe they were 1 goal short in so many games, in that, 15 of their 20 wins have come when they've scored a power play goal. And I thought Tuesday was a perfect example. They didn't do it just once, but twice. And that really ended up being the difference because there wasn't a lot of difference. Or if anything, maybe St. Louis had more at 5-on-5 for a team that had just played the night before in Chicago.
Yeah. And I mean, look, the Jets were a good 5-on-5 team last year, but elite special teams and elite goaltending, it can win you a President's Trophy, and surprise, surprise, that's what happened. And they haven't really leaned on that a ton. Like the power play goes through spurts here and there. The penalty kill, would just love to see a big dose of aggressiveness jolted into that group. But they did enough to get it done against a bad Blues team. But it was pretty bittersweet. You're right. The Chicago loss, it's crippling, right? Like that's just a prime opportunity. I know they're battling with you in the standings and everything like that, but if you consider yourself a legitimate playoff team, it's a game you take care of business. And they were so toothless for most of the contest. So power play was the hero and the savior against the Blues. But even then, Huss, like you look at those two games back to back, and I get the Blues game scheduling, everything, it was against the Jets. But did they really give you any sense that a 12-game heater's coming up, or that they can battle with some of the big dogs? I think they're better than some of those teams, but are they scaring anybody near the top of the division or the conference? They didn't, and they haven't done anything, even while picking up more points of late, to instill a ton of belief. Like, oh yeah, this is going to be an interesting couple of months to end the year.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I would say that last week there was a couple of those games. Certainly the Minnesota one, everyone was pretty fired up afterwards.
That was
but
the
again,
best one.
There's just so much work to be done that, a regulation loss against a team that you think you probably should beat can really be hurt. And that's why I thought there might be a drop-off. I wasn't sure whether we might see a team that had the built-in excuses, the schedule, disappointed about that loss, and maybe come out and sort of look defeated. And to their credit, they didn't. And, we said after I guess on Monday's show, looking ahead to, this period at home this week, and then, of course, next week heading on the road. Before you get to Tampa and Florida, you had the Monday and Tuesday games against Chicago and St. Louis. Tonight against the Panthers, a very good Detroit team that just seems to win every night on Saturday, and then a road game in New Jersey. Like, we kind of said at minimum, you need 8 of 10 points. Well, and then you get 0 in the first game. Yeah. I mean, I guess if they could run the table and win the next 3 and be on another 4-game winning streak going in, maybe there's a little bit more to talk about. But the bottom line is the team sort of feels like, and maybe that's not the way in the dressing room, but I think you realistically have to look that the team is somewhat on life support, and how much can they fight to keep themselves alive. It is nuts, though, when we talk about finishing. Like, they weren't able to finish a lot of chances on Spencer night on Monday night. And big picture, they haven't been finishers in games. Scott O'Neill talked earlier about how they're right up there in goals in the first and second periods and at the bottom of the league in the third period. And that, unfortunately, is where so much of the damage has been done, especially on that 11-game losing streak that really is, could be the, when we look back and do the autopsy of the season, that was where, as bad as October, November and early December was, that losing streak, such a big part of the schedule, really was the undoing of the Jets.
Yeah, well, I mean, I hate to bring this comparison up, but it reminds, like, the New York Giants. How many games did the Giants have in the bag this past NFL season before collapsing in spectacular fashion in the fourth quarter? Like that, the fourth quarter, the third period, that's money time. Like, if you're not good there, you're not a good team. So, and the fact that and it's funny too, because last year, what did they do? They closed everything out. Like that was their bread and butter, their DNA. But the same group a year later just isn't able to get it done, which,
Yeah, they were prime Mariano Rivera last year.
And now they're Brad
Mitch Williams in the World Series.
They are Lidge against Pujols, and the other team's going off the train tracks every night. So, I get that they've performed well in the first 2 periods, but it's kind of like a team that does well in the first half of the season, and then things tighten up and they struggle in the second half when teams elevate their play. Teams tend to elevate their play in the third period. So it's I guess it could be viewed in a positive or a negative light. I don't really look at it.
I don't know if
that's
there's
what-
much positives.
No,
in,
no, but
in that.
yeah, I get what Scott Arniel's trying to do in the sense of like, look, we're a good team through 2/3 of the game. Therefore, we're hoping this evens out at some point. But I think it's just more, you are who you are at this point. And what the Jets are is a team that has no confidence to close out those leads, and they've blown just some brutal ones the whole year, but even this last couple of months. And then even going back to the finish that you said, that's the crippling fatal flaw of this team. You know, how many guys can beat a goalie one-on-one from the slot from distance? 2 for sure up front, maybe 3 if you want to include Velarde. That's not really his game. And then Morrissey has the ability to, I guess, stand to at this point, but you kind of get what I'm saying here, where the vast majority of your forward group, which is the ones that are expected to put the biscuit away, you just have no confidence that they're going to be able to do that consistently. And that's where they drop an easy winnable one against Chicago, and they let St. Louis hang around too in that game on Tuesday.
Hey, by the way, a shout out to Didi Van Gogh with a nice super chat. Best Winnipeg sports content ever. Appreciate that, Didi. Thanks so much for listening and tuning in. Tonight, with a point, Josh Morrissey will tie Buff for the franchise record for defense scoring. I would love to see him get 2 points over the next couple games to break it at home. And that includes the 1.0 era as well. I mean, if you're 65 or 70 years old and, have been around for all of it, we'll get to the point hopefully over the course of this homestand where Josh Morrissey is the most decorated and accomplished defenseman in Winnipeg Jets history.
It's pretty crazy because I look at him and I kind of still think he's like 25.
Yeah.
Maybe he's got a bit of a baby face, but you forget that he's going to be into his 30s moving forward here. So that's why I didn't know that. That's pretty wild, especially with obviously the impact Buff had in terms of what he did there. But that's cool. I mean, he's deserving of it. The one thing, like, as much as I and so many others love Buff and what he brought, and I mean, as far as ceiling wise, I don't know if he had any equal. But Josh has the consistency that Buff struggled to kind of maintain on a night in, night out basis. And he's just been so good.
What was it, the old Claude Noel line when I asked about Buff? He was dangerous in both ends.
Yeah. And to his credit, it wasn't as bad as like the latter part of his career, but some of the early 2.0 days, there were some beauties. There were some beauties, but you don't see as much peaks and valleys with Morrissey. Like, he's just been so good for so long. I mean, he's a mainstay on the Canadian blue line with some of the names that are listed there. I think just speaks to the level he's held at here and across the entire league. So he's so deserving of it. Thankfully, we don't have to do contract talks with him for a little while longer. We can worry about that down the road, but it's pretty amazing, well worth it, and hopefully we get another 10 more of 44 here in Winnipeg.
Yeah, no doubt. Winnipeg Sports Talk, Brandon Rewucki of Skates and Plates with us here on WST, getting ready for the Panthers and the Jets. Drop the puck tonight at 7 p.m. The big picture for the Jets is really not only, I mean, I guess from a general manager perspective, well, if you win 8 of 9, it maybe complicates things when you get to the trade deadline. But pretty clear that, they're in all likelihood going to be sellers. We've talked about the UFAs, the Luke Shen. I mean, Logan Stanley's been a conversation all on its own because of the season that he's had. But outside of that, I did hear the name Cole Perfetti pop up over the last little bit. And obviously Cole's struggled this season at times. Recently I think has been playing the best hockey of the year. I mean, It's night and day. But it was ugly, like coming back from the injury and the struggles early on. What do you think the chances are that they seriously consider a significant move? And if you're going to trade a piece like Cole Perfetti, what's the goal to come back? Is it moving a young player into an equally young player in the middle? How do you see Perfetti's situation right now, on a down year? And, while Logan Stanley's had the best timing ever when it comes to going into UFA, Perfetti sort of bet on himself with the short-term deal, and now, unfortunately, doesn't have anywhere close to the numbers that he probably expected going into the offseason.
Yeah, it's a tricky one because, like, I do understand people who have the line of thinking of what is his ceiling as an NHL player, and could we potentially get somebody back that delivers above that? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know if he's ever going to be a first line player at this point. And so could you potentially bring somebody in that gives you a little bit more? That's obviously what they're weighing in right now. The thing that does scare me about a potential Perfetti trade is what you said. Like, you're selling low when he's had pretty much the worst possible season he could have hoped for. And so how are you going to get a better piece if he's not performing anywhere capable of what you had expected of him? So, yeah, I'm not sure. And, like, even if you're getting somebody, like, say it's a second line center, which seems to be the smoke around the whole situation here, is he 30 years old? Like, do you really want to fully bet on this team again and really increase the age? Like, I just don't see how, like, if you're looking at it as a team hoping to acquire Perfetti, you're doing so basically buying low and hoping a change of scenery can rejuvenate his career. But you're not giving anything back of value, like of massive value, right? So that's what kind of worries me about doing this trade now. If you want to revisit it in the offseason maybe and hope he has a great end to the year, that's something that I think would be an interesting talking point. But just timing wise, I just don't know if it's the right fit. And I'd be concerned that another team out there would be savvy enough to put together an offer where, maybe it's somebody 28, 29, 30 that makes the Jets a better team right now, but for how much longer? And they reap the rewards of a fully developed Cole Perfetti from that point. So it's one of those ones where it's like, I think if I'm the Jets personally, I set my value and I make it extremely high. And if it's met, great. If not, no harm. We can talk about this in the offseason then. But it's not a seller mode in the same way that the Shens, the Stanleys, potentially the Nemesnikovs, all that, where it's basically best offer gets him sort of a deal. It'd be much more selective and patient if you were looking to move him.
His last two seasons, 19 goals and 38 points in 71 games, hit 50 last year with 18 goals and played the full 82. And he's stuck on 3 goals right now in an injury-plagued 35-game season. How much do you think this down year is going to impact what will probably be pretty difficult contract negotiations, considering they did the 2-year bridge deal and now it's time to sort of figure it out?
Yeah, I mean, from a Jets perspective, you're not looking to book him in long term. Unless it's really like I at this point, I think both sides are probably like, look, it hasn't gone well this past year, and so let's revisit this in a year. Something along. That's how I see it playing out. I mean, I can understand from Perfetti's perspective locking in a long-term deal just to get some safety in there in terms of knowing you've got money in. But if you believe in yourself and you want to bet on yourself, this would be the time to just take a 1 year, basically whatever the raise would be with the rising cap, take the 1 year deal and bet on yourself again. And I think it's probably the same from the Jets' perspective, Huss. Like, I just don't know how you can feel comfortable investing 6-7 years into Cole when this year has gone so poorly and you still don't totally know what kind of a player he's going to be long term. So I would be shocked if it went 2 years. I think it's just a 1 year deal and it's revisited at some point during the season or into the next offseason.
I'm just trying to think. He played his ELC. He's got a 2-year deal done,
which is 5 years.
5 years. So, I mean, I think it would have to be a 1 year because otherwise you'd basically be walking to UFA. I mean, to kick the can down the road with a 1 year deal and see where it happens, barring any sort of a player move, I think is probably the only solution really for both sides, because I'm not sure there's the confidence from Winnipeg to commit long term to what it would take to get him signed. And if I'm Perfetti and his agent, much like trading a couple of the players that have very low values, and maybe even Cole included based on where he was last year, it's difficult to make that work to the satisfaction of all sides based on what has happened so far this year. Brandon, listen, before we go, who do you expect to be playing in Santa Clara for the Super Bowl in a couple weeks?
I don't even care. The Super Bowl sucks anyways.
Overrated.
It
wasn't last year.
It wasn't last year. Yeah, I've always thought it was overrated in the last 2 weeks. I'll be honest though. I really have little rooting interest now. To me, this is almost the worst possible Final Four. The NFC much more now that Bo Nix is out. Obviously,
that's going to be the game of the year. I mean, listen, the NFC Championship game. I'm not saying they're 100% going to win. They'll certainly be favored in the Super Bowl, but when you think about that classic, the 38-37 OT game between those two teams for the 1 seed about a month ago, that game was so great. I mean, we probably aren't going to get 75 points again, but I would suggest that of the 3 matchups we're going to have, regardless of how it ends, a Rams-Patriots Super Bowl rematch of a few years ago with the 2 MVP finalists, I think would have some juice in it. But I mean, the bottom line is like what happened, like with the Bills doing like Billsing, and then 20 minutes later finding Bo Nix is out with a broken ankle was the worst case scenario for the AFC, which the AFC game has usually been the game. It's Mahomes and Burrow, Mahomes and Allen, Mahomes and Lamar.
Yeah,
it's Jared Stidham and Drake May.
I don't know what the line is right now. I think I'm going to take the Broncos on the spread, though, Huss. Like, Sean Payton can scheme up a game and keep his team in it. And
their defense is world-class.
Their defense is amazing. I know that, Josh Allen beat him up a little bit, but they also forced how many turnovers? I think they're going to keep it close. It's hard for me to utter the words, I think Jared Stidham's going to the Super Bowl. So my brain won't allow me to say that out loud, so I can hedge by going the Broncos will cover the spread at home. But I'll take Patriots Seahawks. It is another Super Bowl rematch.
Yeah, exactly, and one that I'm sure the Seattle fans in particular would love to get a piece of New England, considering the way the last one between those two teams ended. It's 4.5 right now for New England in Denver.
Never mind.
And that's about a 7-point swing from probably where it would have been if Knicks was playing, and Seattle's 2.5-point favorites over the Rams. Stay warm, pal. Enjoy your walks with the Husky.
Yay. Super fun. Sounds good. We'll talk soon.
Take care. There's Brandon Rewicki, Skates and Plates. Grab it wherever you get the podcast version of WST. We will look to the cool bet lines a little later on. Jake Bowen Moss is going to join us. As I mentioned, we hit the clean line lines earlier today for the Winnipeg Jets and the Florida Panthers for tonight's game. Clean Line Plumbing, Heating, and Electrical, proud sponsors of Winnipeg Sports Talk and the Winnipeg Jets. Your one-stop shop for plumbing, heating, and electrical services, both residential and commercial, with over 40 years of experience. And much like the captain's got the back of the Winnipeg Jets, Clean Line has yours 24/7, 365, with emergency services available when you desperately need them. Keep this phone number handy, 204-500-2001 for Clean Line's 24/7 emergency services, plumbing, heating, and electrical. And, of course, you can check them online. Clean Line, the official plumbing service of your Winnipeg Jets. Big Sunday coming up, Championship Sunday. You're looking to get together with your gang to decide who is going to the Super Bowl. Head on down to Boston Pizza. Always got great contests going on with NFL football, and you know you can be guaranteed a great time with the big game on the big screen with sound, and of course ice cold schooners, world famous BP wings, and gourmet pizzas as well. And hey, it is cold right now. You might not feel like leaving or cooking. You can get the great taste of Boston Pizza to your door by ordering online at bostonpizza.com. Speaking of the football playoffs, if need to get geared up for the games on the weekend, only one place to go for that. That, of course, is Royal Sports, the ultimate superstore when it comes to fan gear, with the best in NFL merchandise, Jets and NHL, Raptors and NBA, Blue Jays and Major League Baseball, international soccer, and, of course, so much Canada gear. as we get ready for the Olympics and the World Cup. Pop down to Royal and get covered for all of that. And while you're at it, check out the great deals in their world-class hockey department, the best in town, and the very busy snowboard department right now as people look to get and hit the hills right now. I was talking to Greg last week. He said the snowboard department has just been insane for the last month plus. So if you're looking to hit the hills at some point and you haven't already, make sure to get down to Royal for that and check out all the cool things on the King's Skate, Snow, and Surf side. Now, we're going to check in with our friends at Sport Manitoba and welcome in Kyle Turcotte from the Canadian Sports Centre before Jake jumps on. But before we welcome Kyle into the program, let's give a big cheers to Winnipeg's favorite local brewery, Little Brown Jug.
You train day in and day out, learning new techniques, approaching new concepts, and living out the thrill of achieving your goals. Building a craft beer is no different. While you spend your hours on the ice, we spend ours here, brewing our trademark beer. Again, and again. Here's to pushing the status quo and challenging ourselves to build something memorable. 1919 by Little Brown Jug.
All right, it's time for another one of our It Takes a Community to Play segments with Sport Manitoba. And of course, the Olympics and the Paralympics are coming up. It's an absolute pleasure to welcome in the Director of Physical Preparation from the Canadian Sports Centre Manitoba, Kyle Turcotte, who's getting ready to head out to Italy in a month or so. Kyle, what's going on? Great to have you on Winnipeg Sports Talk.
Yeah, thanks, Huss. It's great to be here. Happy to kind of join you guys and talk a little bit about Olympic and Paralympic sports.
You know, before we get into what's coming up for our Olympians and Paralympians, tell us a little bit about being the Director of Physical Preparation and your role within the Canadian Sports Centre Manitoba. And then we can actually talk a little bit more about the Sports Centre, which I think a lot of people might not realize the work that you guys are doing right here in Winnipeg.
Yeah, we're certainly not a public-facing organization. Most people don't really know who we are. I even have trouble sometimes continuing to tell my family what it is we do. But we're an organization that's been here since about 1999, just after the Pan Am Games that were held in Winnipeg. We were formed. And we're really set up to work with Manitobans that are in pursuit of Olympic and Paralympic success, appearances, right? So our goal is to try and help athletes get to the games. And then once they're there, to help support them along that pathway. So we work with both winter and summer Paralympic and Olympic hopefuls. And anyone who's situated in Manitoba or Manitobans that are working outside of the province at times. So, and occasionally we have had associations with different national sport organizations. So right now I work with Curling Canada in a strength conditioning capacity. But at one time we had both the men's and women's volleyball teams here in Winnipeg. And so we provided services to them as well. And we provide services in what we call sports science related fields. So myself in strength conditioning, I have another fellow who also works in strength conditioning and physiology. We have a sports dietitian. We have sports psychologists on staff. And so we provide those support services to those athletes.
We'll get into the Olympics and the Paralympics in a minute, but I wanted to first ask you about the role with curling. In that, of course, we've got the Scotties coming up. Carrie Anderson's the favorite. We've got the Laws rink, Pedersen rink. I mean, I think everyone knows that the epicenter of the best curling in the world is right here in Winnipeg. But on a world stage, the game has changed so much. Mm-hmm. And, listen, we grew up. I mean, curling was sort of a sport that maybe got, some side eyes from people as being sports because, of the social nature of it, the way that it's grown up. But I mean, as an Olympic sport and at a high level, these are as committed as athletes as anybody else in the Olympic Games. Just from your perspective, Kyle, tell us about your role. Like, it's that strength and conditioning goes into the top teams, and what it's been like working with the top teams, helping them take that next step to be able to compete with the best in the world in this new world of curling.
Yeah, it's these are athletes, right? Like they prepare just like every other athlete out there. So our season kind of ends anywhere from, and it's varied over the last few years. It's fluctuated. It's definitely changed. The curling season has shifted, and they've introduced some new concepts. So we've got a whole new entity starting this year called the Rock League, which is going to change the calendar year for everybody. But typically their season ends kind of April, May. We go through a transition period just like every other athlete will, where, you kind of have a little bit of a break from the sport. And then it's right back into it, right? By end of May, beginning of June, they're full on into what I call my season, which is the strength conditioning important part of that, right? So certainly they're all enjoying some time off in the summer, but, they're into the gym, they're working out hard. Their competitive season then begins kind of end of August and through September, and then it's go, go, go. So for me, it's building up all of the different areas of fitness that are important for success in the curling rink. And then once the season hits, it's all about keeping up with maintenance and making sure that all the fitness gains that they've made over the summer are maintained throughout what's a very busy fall competitive season.
Obviously curling is such a unique sport because there's an amount of strategy and precision that go into it. But as we're seeing right now at the highest levels, I mean, the ability for teams, and particularly sweepers, to, do things with the rock is a massive part of the game. And then you look at the highest levels, I mean, particularly on the men's side, and some of the horses that they've got out there curling. I mean, I imagine the physical preparation and the commitment to fitness and training is probably in a very different place today in 2025 than it was 15, 20 years ago.
Yeah, I've been working with high performance curlers since 2011, and the commitment was significant then, and it has been continuing to grow. Throughout the years. I started working with Curling Canada as a whole in 2014, and we've just continued to kind of push the envelope with some of these athletes over the years, and they all work extremely hard, and their appetite for improvement is relentless, right? These are truly high performance athletes, so they're always looking for that edge wherever that happens to be. So there are still some areas that we can improve on the fitness end of things, just like every other sport out there. You're trying to push limits, and until we kind of get to the edge of those limits, and we'll continue to push and continue to grow.
Well, you talk about pushing limits. I don't think there's a better example of that than in the Paralympics, where people with disabilities are doing things that in previous years were thought to be pretty much impossible. I mean, what was it like getting involved with the Paralympic side of things? And we can kind of get into some of the sports, but just overall, the commitment to excellence and opportunity for people with disabilities that will lead you to Italy in a month.
Yeah, I started working with para athletes in 2009. Worked with the women's wheelchair basketball program at that time. A friend of mine, a close family friend, became the coach of the Team Canada women's program, hired me on as the strength conditioning coach. And I got a chance to work with a now retired athlete. His name is Dennis Thiessen. He is a wheelchair curler. He was a world champion in 2013. So he came onto our radar with the Canadian Sports Center, and I started working with him at that point, helped him prepare for the Sochi Games where they won a gold medal. And it's been, a pleasure working with these athletes, right? Like, again, just like we see on the Olympic side, our Paralympic athletes are athletes, right? They're dedicated just as much as any other athlete is, and they work equally as hard. So, it's been a great experience, and I enjoy every minute that I can with any of the para sports that I've had the pleasure.
Now, you, we were talking just a little bit before we came on. You must be pretty fired up. I mean, first chance to head out to the Olympics and Paralympics this year. And tell us about your role coming up in Italy.
Yeah, it's always a goal, right? I think anyone who works in the Olympic and Paralympic world, your goal is to try and get to the games if you can, right? And as a strength coach with some of the programs that I've worked with, there's been other priorities, other service providers have gone. So, I prepped athletes, like I said, prior to Sochi and even prior to London in 2012 to go to games. This is the first opportunity that I get to go. So wheelchair curling, same as on the Olympic side, has two kind of disciplines to it, right? There's the 4-person game, which in curling is a mixed event. So that's a male and female teams. And then we have the mixed doubles. So we were unfortunately unable to qualify our mixed doubles program. I had been working a little bit closer with the mixed doubles program. So my role shifted a little bit when we didn't qualify that. I'm going to be doing a little more scouting. Obviously, I'll have my strength conditioning role. We're going to be staging in a little town north of Cortina called Brunico for a few days prior to. And there's a little 2-sheet curling rink there that's kind of underneath a hockey rink. So it's a great little venue that we're pretty excited to go to. They've got a great weight room, so we'll be doing a couple of days in the weight room there, a couple of days of training in the weight room once we get into the village on March 4th. And so I'll have that role, and I'll also be scouting out our future, the next sheet of ice that we'll be playing on. I'll be watching those games and taking some notes on what the Rocks are doing and some interesting things. So a little bit of a different, not a purely S&C role, a very much mixed role once I go there. But.
Hey, you know what? It takes a village to build champions, right? So it's all hands on deck when you get up to something like that. Kyle Turcotte from the Canadian Sports Centre is with us on Winnipeg Sports Talk, looking ahead to the Olympics and Paralympics. A big picture for the athletes in both the Olympics and Paralympians. Right now, we're coming very close to the games. Obviously, the Paralympics are a few weeks afterwards. Yep. Hockey's a little different because, our men's hockey team are all playing in the National Hockey League. Pretty much the women's league is all in the PWHL. But outside of professionals that are kind of coming and building a team that'll be participating, for the rank and file Winter Olympians that have been working for 4 years to get to this point, what's the training like right now? Is this sort of a downtime? Are they building up, or does it really change from sport to sport depending on what is involved in the chase of gold?
Yeah, I think that last point's probably the one that hits on the head the most, right? It varies by sport. So, with our wheelchair curling team, we just finished our last competition prior to the games, getting some competitive reps. And I was just in Leduc, Alberta this past week. We have a training camp coming up in London, Ontario, at the beginning of February. And then we'll be into the final stages. So for us, it's a bit of a taper. So that usually means we're trying to recover some of the fatigue that we've kind of built up throughout the season. So we decrease the overall volume of our training a little bit. We keep the intensity high, and that allows the athletes to recover so that they're a little fresher going in. And in most sports, that's kind of the theme, right? You're looking at that, and that taper will vary depending on their competitive season. So if there's, alpine events that lead up a little closer to the games, then you may not be able to taper quite as long. But that's generally what most teams will try to do, is get to the games so that their fitness is at its maximum and their fatigue is at somewhat of a minimum so that their performance can be optimal.
Kyle, I know one of the things that the Sports Center has been known for is also the work in sports psychology over the years. How closely do the strength and conditioning folks work with the sports psychologists, and is basically all part of one big team?
Yeah, we work in what we call an integrated support team. We like a lot of acronyms in our world, so we call, everything's an IST. So if you ever hear that term, that's what that usually means, integrated support team. So that's all the support services that go into helping the athlete along their pathway, right? So strength conditioning, physiology, sports psychology, sport nutrition, and along with your medical and paramedical, so physiotherapy, athletic therapy, right? Like all of those teams are generally built up around the sport, and then we integrate that. So, we try to be as inclusive and discussing, challenges with the athletes as we can. So each sport operates fairly differently in how that goes, right? And so it's But we try to, have some discussion around, okay, this athlete's, having this particular challenges in the weight room. Is this nutrition related? How does nutrition tie in? How does sports psychology tie in? And vice versa. All right. So we will have generally regular meetings to discuss the athletes and how their performance goes and how we can each influence and help support each other's goals to help the athlete.
Kyle, I this is sort of a big picture question just about the job that I'm interested in knowing. We see world records changing every year, performance continuing to build. I mean, you've been doing this for over 20 years. How, just broadly, what have been the biggest changes in training, preparation, and in what the athletes are doing over the course of 20 years? Has there been, or is it just basically people continue to be able to do things bigger and better as we evolve?
Yeah, I think, the field of sports science is always kind of growing a little bit here and there, right? And the performance, human performances have improved, quite a bit over the last 40 years. And some of that has definitely been the improvement of some of the training techniques and technology that's being brought in. So now it's like, we've got an awful lot of tech involved in sport now. So it's trying to make sure that we filter out a lot of the noise that kind of comes in, right? Like, everybody's bringing this device in, this device in, this device in. So it's really trying to make sure that when we introduce new techniques or technologies in, that it's really kind of giving us the benefit that we want. So it's really kind of honing in for us as sports scientists to kind of identify how this is really helping our athletes and in some ways making sure that it's not hindering our athletes' development as well.
Well, we will look forward to personal bests and records and some great stuff for our Canadians and Manitobans coming up in the Olympic Games and the Paralympics. When do you leave and how long are you gone for?
I leave on February 26th and I get back on March 16th, I believe. So it's going to be a good little stretch.
Well, listen, I mean, on a personal level, congratulations. I mean, everyone that is involved in this, as you mentioned, works to get to the pinnacle, which is the Olympic Games. And, people like yourself, there's so many people behind our athletes that we're all cheering on to gold and great results. So hopefully this is as great of an experience for you as it is for everybody else that'll be participating in the games. Kyle, all the best to you and Team Canada. Thanks so much for doing this.
Awesome. Thanks, Huss.
All right, great. Appreciate Kyle coming on, and good luck to all of our Olympians and Paralympians coming up in Italy. All right, we're going to bring in JBM in just a minute to hit the lines for Coolbet. They got an amazing new promo I was just looking at coming up for a certain soccer tourney in the summer down in Miami. But I just saw a promo for the new runway, and if you missed Sarah Orlesky with us yesterday, talking about the Monday in Chicago for Jonathan Toew's return, you're definitely going to want to maybe PVR the game tonight because they're going to have the premiere of the runway from Monday and the return of Jonathan Toews. And as Sarah mentioned, they had him mic'd up for it. So that's going to be something that'll be really, really cool to see. Tomorrow morning, 10 a.m., right here on WST, myself, Jake, and Pat will be diving into conference championship weekend with our picks, some props, some touchdown scores. We'll make all that happen. And to tee it up and check in as we get to the Coolbet lines for a pretty busy night tonight in the NHL, let's welcome in Jake Bowen Moss from Coolbet. What's going on, dude? How are you?
Doing well, Huss. Doing well. The Leafs haven't been treating me too well lately, and it's back to doom and gloom in the group chats. So that's one side of the coin that I'm working on here. The other side of the coin is an AFC Championship game against the Denver Broncos in Mile High. And, Jarrett Stidham going to start for the Broncos. We'll have to see what happens. I'm not overlooking anybody. I don't care what anybody says. It's about winning football games and moving on to the next one. So, we're going to see how the weekend goes, I suppose. We got Mitch Marner in town tomorrow night.
Oh,
I'm sure
forgot about that. That scrum
I'm sure
tomorrow
that'll be,
morning is going to be absolutely insane. What is he going to get his ass booed out the building, do you think?
Yeah, apparently. So apparently, I think it was last night, they showed like a Bo Bichette interview at the second intermission on the Jumbotron, and he got booed. So if that's the case for Bo, I'm going to imagine Mitch is not going to get a hero's welcome tomorrow night. And I'm all for it, honestly, the way things have gone down the last couple of years with this team and Marner and, just how dysfunctional this organization truly is. Why not boo him? Who cares? Like, if you're a fan, you're allowed to do whatever you want. However you feel about a player, if you want to cheer for Mitch, I'm fine with it. If you want to boo him, that's totally fine as well. You're allowed to feel how you want about players. That's what it is to be a fan. And, like a lot of people say, Huss, the fans pay the players' salaries at the end of the day.
I'm fascinated in that I'm sure they'll do some sort of a tribute video. I mean, hometown guy, spent a lot of great years there, did a lot. I still think back to the way he bent the club over on his previous contract that sort of set the tone for everything in the way that it played out. I don't doubt that he will hear some serious jeers, probably for the majority of the game. I mean, hell, Leaf fans traveled to Vegas to do it last week or the week before. The thing about this one, I just wonder if it's so cantankerous that usually the booing stops when they do the tribute video. I'm not even sure that one doesn't get booed tomorrow. Like, I think it's going to be a crazy night downtown TO.
Yeah, listen, I'm excited. I'll be watching from the couch. I can't say I'll be in the building, but I'm sure you'll be able to hear it on the broadcast, regardless if it's cheers or boos. I'm going to guess boos from what I saw, like you said, last week in Vegas and kind of how everything's transpired here in Toronto.
Hey, we got the Panthers in town tonight. You guys will all be Jet fans tonight. Panthers are 4 back of the Leafs. They do have 2 games in hand. You got Washington and the Devils and the Flyers. I think it's probably better to just, instead of looking at points, look at how many games above 500, because it does sort of switch up a little bit, with the games in hand. But Florida's 5 over 500. The Leafs are 7. The playoff spots right now, Boston is 8 and Buffalo is 10. We've been talking about this all show today. The Panthers are fascinating in that they are the standard right now in the league. They've won back-to-back championships. But they are where they are. They've had brutal injuries, including their number 1 center all season long. And they've got 9 guys playing in the Olympic Games. And I think that's going to take a toll on when they come back, and they're going to desperately need those games. Like, what do you think the chances are that the Panthers miss the playoffs?
Well, I don't think it's a 0% chance given where they are at this current moment.
I think it's like 50-50.
Yeah, I think that's a great call by you, Huss. 50-50 feels right. Like, they definitely could make the playoffs, and it wouldn't surprise me if they did. But at the same time, considering where they are, it's not like they built a strong lead in the Atlantic that these guys can go to the Olympics and, barring any sort of tragedy, come back and, do this big schedule down the stretch and find a way to get in. I mean, they're experienced. I'm sure, they got the guys to do it. But a lot of those guys have gotten older too. Like, it's not like, you look at the Panthers and you go, wow, what a lot of great young talent there. You got the guys, some guys in their older years, including the Marchands of the world and, Ekblad or whatever it may be. I know Jones is out right now. He's going to get replaced. I saw for the U.S. team, Jackson Lacombe coming in there. Yeah, just it'll be an interesting situation, Huss, because the thing is, that's the funny thing about hockey, right, is like the Panthers just won back-to-back cups. Like, if they miss the playoffs, Florida fans, all 10 of them, just go back to living their own lives in a nice, beautiful, warm city of Miami or whatever it is. And if the Leafs miss the playoffs, the city might be warm because it's burning down after so many years of failed playoff performance. So, that's the funny thing about these markets is, Florida's won back-to-back cups. I don't think their fans are going to really lose sleep over, the possibility of missed playoffs where, in a place like Toronto or Winnipeg, for that instance, I think fans will lose sleep and be a little frustrated at a lost season, especially when you have, a core like not only Toronto does, but Winnipeg as well.
Yeah, I mean, listen, we're pretty much there, and you lose 11 in a row. I mean, it's crazy though. You look at the standings. I mean, goal differential is always a pretty good, indicator of where teams are. I mean, the Leafs are even. They're right there, even. So that puts them just outside of the playoffs. And then the Jets are -4. I mean, the Kraken and the Ducks are in playoff spots right now and are -11. It just speaks to the 1-goal games. And, oh, God, that's been, speaking of losing sleep, it's been keeping many of us up over the course of this year. I will put in a request to Ev Dog and the rest of the boys. It would be awesome to get props to make the playoffs right now. And I mean, that could be something could almost change on a nightly basis. I mean, when you think of the amount of teams that are right around the line, I mean, the only teams in the East that I think we can pretty much say are probably in are Carolina, Tampa Bay, and even Detroit. Detroit was 66 points. But I mean, you go from Montreal, who does have 63, they're in a good spot, but the Penguins and Islanders are 59. I mean, they're in playoff spots in their division, but would be tied for the first wild card. And then teams like Toronto, Philly, Jersey, Washington, Florida, Ottawa. I mean, all these teams are realistically in striking distance with a bit of a heater. And then be interesting to see what the numbers are for some of the teams in the West that are challenging right now. More so than any year before. I think that the make the playoff market would be something that would be a lot of fun to talk about on a daily basis, because a good half the league right now is right on the bubble of being in or being out.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you, Huss. It's a wild race. I mean, the East has felt like this for a long time, and still a lot of teams in the mix for those 2 wild card spots, and even those spots over in the Metro, like you mentioned. Yeah, let me talk to Ev, and we'll see what we can do. He might want to wait until Olympic break, but right now is kind of the juice, coming down this last 6-7 game stretch. I don't know how many you guys got left. I think the Leafs have got 7 left. So, we're coming into a big part of the schedule here. Who can stay alive going into the break, and then who can get healthy enough to kind of solidify their position following the Olympics.
Good stuff. And it'll get I think the cold, I don't know where the cold's here on our end or your end, but we were just cutting out for a minute. Listen, just before we get to tonight's games in the NHL, I mentioned this bringing you in. I was perusing the promotions tab over at CoolBet, and I couldn't help but notice a new promo that's just launched for the football trip of a lifetime to Miami a little later on this year. This is, we know that CoolBet does it big when it comes to their contests, and we were there with the winners at the Four Nations last year. Nothing quite like when the world comes together every 4 years for the beautiful game.
Yeah, listen, Huss, guys like us, we're World Cup veterans, as people say.
It's true.
We know what it's all about. It's a different style this year in North America, kind of split between Canada, the U.S., and Mexico. But yeah, we are going to send one lucky CoolBetter. You have to remember, you want to get a piece of this, you want to get a chance for this, you got to go sign up. But you have to remember, CoolBet is in more than just Canada. We're across, we're across the world. So this is a central campaign. This is run across all CoolBet destinations. So one lucky CoolBetter is going to get a chance to go to Miami for a trip to the World Cup, and it might just be someone from Canada. That would be awesome if we were promoting someone from Canada heading down there for what's expected to be the trip of a lifetime.
And you know what? You and I are the perfect people to talk about this. The prize for this includes flights, luxury hotel stay, premium match tickets, and exclusive hosted events. The total experience is worth over $15,000. And considering when they say premium match tickets, we know a thing or two about the World Cup hospitality suites, courtesy of those Canada games last year. And I will tell you, this will be the prize and trip of a lifetime. So details up in the promotions tab. Just click on opt-in and then submit, and you'll be good to go. And you can earn tickets for the raffle over the course of the next few months. And then hopefully you'll be there cheering on the world's best in the World Cup. Let's get over to the NHL tonight. And we got a busy night. I've actually put something together for the combo cards, but here are the lines right now. Vegas in Boston. And it's so funny. Every one of these games, depending on if you're a bubble team in the East or the West, you got pretty clear rooting interests. Leaf fans will be all in on VGK tonight before they come to Toronto tomorrow, with Boston being in a playoff spot. Bruins at home plus 125. Canes are a massive favorite at home against the Blackhawks. Close to a pick'em in Dallas and Columbus. DeSmith's going to get the start. Jet Grease for Bones' Blue Jackets. Dallas a slight favorite at minus 111. A big game, Montreal and the Sabres at the Bell Center. Buffalo plus 105. Habs minus 123. Ottawa desperate to put some wins together. They're in Nashville. Minus 116 for Ottawa. Preds just around even money at minus 101. Pick'em in the Jets-Panthers game here in the Peg. The Oilers taking on Sidney Crosby and the Penguins. Penguins won in Calgary last night. Edmonton a minus 175 favorite. And those Detroit Red Wings that we're going to see in town on Saturday night, taking on the Minnesota Wild. I know Detroit just took out the Leafs last night. Was it an overtime or a shootout? Crazy. They're 4-0 against Toronto this year. And, you know, Jake, with standing so close, you really lament some of those games head-to-head against a team that has, I think, really surprised people. They have never really had that lull in the middle of the season. And, man, has Todd McClellan done a job keeping them not only competitive and winning, but hungry for that next step. And, you know, there's a chance that we're going to see a few new teams make the playoffs that have not been familiar participants in the past.
Yeah, I mean, you could argue we've been waiting for this Detroit team to come on. The Shanna plan, or the Yzer plan, I should say. Shanna plan was a Leaf bit there, but the Yzer plan was the big deal. And, you know, Detroit was getting a little antsy about, you know, when this team was going to take that next step, and it looks like they're starting to do that. They win a lot of hockey games, man, and you got to give them credit. You know, they're getting good goaltending from John Gibson. And you're getting some big performances from guys like Dylan Larkin, Alex DeBrincat, you know, Patrick Kane when he's been healthy has been a nice piece. Even the veteran and James Van Riemsdyk has been good. Mo Seider stepping into his own. So, yeah, things are good, looking good in Detroit. Like you mentioned, they swept the season series with the Leafs. And, you know, you're going to look back at the end of the season if the Leafs do miss the playoffs and say, wow, you know, you missed out on a lot of points against teams that you were chasing kind of all season long. So those games are important. And, yeah, Detroit's found a way to get it done so far.
Now, I have put together something for the combo cards. I don't see it just yet. I imagine it'll be up.
I haven't got a chance to put it up yet, but I'll get it there
It'll
shortly.
get up relatively soon. This is what we're rolling with tonight. We're going to take Dallas and Columbus at minus 111. We'll take the Oilers at home against Pittsburgh. And Buffalo and Montreal are just over machines. We were going through this a little earlier on today. So let's go for some goals in that one. We'll take the over 6.5 in Buffalo, Montreal. So Dallas money line, Edmonton money line, Buffalo, Montreal over. It was in and around plus 455 when I was putting it in before a boost. So if you want to ride with me on that, check out the combo cards. In the next few minutes, probably 15, 20, it should be up. It'll certainly be up in the next hour, I'd imagine, as it usually is. And you can take advantage of the boost and see if we can go back to back. Had a nice one last night, Jake, and I didn't send it in the combo cards, but I just did it at the end of the show. And I had mixed up one of the two games that I picked. I knew I had Pittsburgh, and I knew I had Utah. And for whatever reason, when I thought I had the Islanders over Seattle. So I watched this crazy comeback of Utah come and get the win. And I thought, it's all for naught. And then there's no better feeling. You go into the account and go, wait a second. Well, where's this money from? And plug your ears. I had Detroit instead of the Islanders. So that was a nice one at around 5-1. So we'll try and go back to back. But of course, the main event is on Sunday. Your Pats and the Broncos, the battle of the NFC West to see who's going to be the favorite in the Super Bowl between the Rams and the Seahawks. And tomorrow, 10 a.m., me and Patty, 2 games, picks against the spread, our favorite props in the games, touchdown scores. And right now, as I mentioned, Pats minus 4.5, Seahawks minus 2.5. We'll have to wait 2 weeks for our Super Bowl program, but We're down to only 3 games left in the season. We got to make the most of tomorrow at 10 a.m.
Yeah, listen, I'm not going to disclose any early picks, but I've kind of already laid out the card how I expect in my head. I spoke with you and Patty earlier in the week and said, here's an idea. We'll roll out a spread game parlay for the first game, same game parlay for the second game, and then we'll have a TD score one. So, it just sets up where, if the first game doesn't go our way, we always get the second game in our back pocket to find another winner there. And, we've been pretty hot, Huss. So we've hit 3 different parlays 3 weeks in a row here. So if we can close this out with one more winner here in the championship weekend, I think we'll be going to Super. Listen, it is what it is. It's been a crazy, crazy season. The fact they've gotten this far has been wild. And, it's set up for a good spot with a backup quarterback starting. But listen, the Pats have played a backup quarterback before in a big game, and he diced them up pretty good. I know that's a different era of the Pats, but I don't forget about Nick Foles. And
can Stidham be the Nick Foles?
Tell you what, I'm not taking Jarrett Stidham lightly. 3 o'clock hour game there. So about the 6 o'clock hour, I'm sure I'll know how I'm going to be feeling. You can check my Twitter if you want to know what state of mind I'm in.
Before we get to Sunday, we get to Friday. Join us tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. live on WST. We'll fire up our favorite picks for the conference championship weekend in the National Football League. Jake, enjoy the games tonight. Thanks for jumping on. We'll talk to you tomorrow at 10 when we get it going for conference championship weekend.
Yeah, appreciate it, Huss. Sorry, my service was a little crazy today, but hopefully by tomorrow morning we're good to go.
Talk to your people. It's a big one tomorrow. It's a big one tomorrow morning. Take it easy. There's Jake. Yes, if you do want to see him freak out during Leaf games and more, make sure to follow him at Jake Bowen Moss, and of course follow Coolbet Canada for the more in the for the best promotions around. And as I say, next week, we are going to be with our winner from the WST Poker Series down in Costa Rica at the Costa Rica Poker Open. Myself and Hammer will certainly be cranking out some content for WST and for Coolbet. So make sure you're following and sticking to the show. And, of course, the very capable team of Michael Remis and Connor Rabchak going to be holding it down for me while I'm away for the week and the following Monday. That's going to do it for us. We got to get this podcast up because we got a big hockey game tonight. The Stanley Cup champs in town. 7 o'clock puck drop down at Canada Life Center, Winnipeg in Florida. The return of Paul Maurice. Fun show today. Thanks to Jake and Kyle Turcotte, Brandon Rewicki, and Rod Peterson for joining us today on the program. Thanks to everyone mixing it up in the chat. We'll be back tomorrow with the Big Friday show, recapping tonight's game, looking ahead to Saturday night against the Detroit Red Wings, and of course talking NFL playoffs and the conference championship games tomorrow at 1 p.m. Join us then. Don't forget, post-game coverage will be live hour or so after the game. You can consume it after K&R, or tomorrow morning when you get up, head on over to Winnipeg Sports Talk and check out the Connor and Liz doing the post-game today on Winnipeg Sports Talk, or for your ride to work in the morning. That's going to do it for us. Enjoy the game tonight. Thanks again to all of our sponsors and all of you for making this a part of your day. For Michael Remis, I'm Andrew Paterson. Stay warm and enjoy tonight's game.
Oh, my God! Oh! Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.